Welcome back to the Tailosive Tech Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. After months of effort, we finally got the OG crew back. Good to see you guys. Good to be here.
Hello.
Excited for
Hello.
all of the things we have to catch up on, because Randy's got something on his head. The doctors are trying to figure out what it is, but
Yeah, it's called cancer, unfortunately.
no.
It's a big growth.
He got that Android phone that one time. It was a 5G Android phone, and he put it up to his ear, and unfortunately,
It microwaves your
the
brain.
reports say gives you cancer. 5G Android phones.
These
5G
are the-
on iPhone's safe, but 5G on Android could give you cancer.
Not okay. There's casts on his ears to help the healing process.
Yes.
Yeah. It also
Important.
doubles as an amplifier. I can turn off noise if I want to. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
How are they treating
People
you?
start asking you to do things.
Yeah.
You gotta take out the garbage. You gotta mow the lot, and you just, bing.
Boom, boom. How many? If I told you once, I told you 1,000 times. Go take out the boom, boom.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
He's mouthing for audio listeners.
Hi, audio listeners. I hope you miss my voice. I went back to my old mic setup.
Of course.
Because it's 2022. We got to keep it unpredictable and mix it up, you know? So I brought out
Yeah.
the old mic. Let's talk about this for a second, what I'm wearing.
This is what I've wanted to hear about for weeks. So we're
I'm so
starting with
sorry. You know, guys, we have a sister podcast called Tailosive EV where we talk a little bit more jazz news like related stuff. So if headphones and
from
whatever
big
and Drew returning his studio today, and if that stuff is just so exhilarating for you and you want to hear more stuff, go check out the EV. Self plug. Screw it. Okay. I pulled the trigger. What we talked about, I think, like last month about these things being on sale. I decided, you know what? 90 days is a long time. We can totally milk this and have a free 100% return policy out of this, and I can really get a feel for this over-ear experience.
Well, that's my first question.
Okay.
Well, it's like, how is the condition? Because they're not technically brand new, right?
No, they're not
They're
brand new.
renewed.
Yeah.
But could they have fooled you
Honestly,
if they told you they were new?
perfect. These things are perfect. This is
Wow.
some YouTuber got these and babied them and then sent them back. This is
Never mind. Yeah.
perfect.
It didn't work.
That's true.
Like even the bra strap thing here, the case.
Ooh, the bra's in perfect condition.
Nothing. This is the same material. I did not know the same color, same material as the Magic Keyboard for the iPad.
Oh yeah, that works.
That's cool.
Black.
Black. But I mean the texture too. Everything. It's exactly the same.
Kind of forgot what that feels like.
I
So
will
got rid
remind
of
you.
it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
These are perfect. I fear there's something wrong with them.
They're perfect, but there was something wrong
They're
with them.
perfect, but there's something wrong. The fact that they're using Lightning, the fact that there's no lossless support.
Listen,
or-
we're stuck with Lightning for more years than we are even thinking. I've accepted it. I'm not running from it anymore. No more than I'm trying to make iPad Pro the main hardware device. I just accept my ecosystem for what it is, and I love it with all its flaws. Lightning does not. I mean, to have one port to rule them all would be dope, but I don't need fast data, whatever, for these headphones to charge, and I get that. They're flawed. Like I would love a wireless charging option for them, but that's. I'll get there in a
Same.
second. I want to back up a sec to talk about the condition first. The
The
box
condition's great.
the box that came in was the original box, but that was more roughed up than. Do I have it here? It's somewhere. When I pass the mic off to one of you guys to talk, I'll go grab it. But the
My
box.
Mac Studio was roughed up, and it was from Apple.
Listen, mine did not look like that.
Okay.
Yours got into a bar fight and lost. mine
With an
mine
Intel
mine
machine,
mine
yeah.
got bumped. Somebody at the airport bumped into to mine. Yours got into a bar fight and lost. They're not the
Okay.
same. So where I was getting at is that like the worst condition I saw was in the box of stuff, and I'm like, oh, is this indicative of what I'm about to see? All right, let's see what I opened the box, and I was like, it was so. And here's why I think it was a YouTuber or somebody who like reviews it. They included the wrapping paper that it comes with it. They put it back in. They did. They put
really?
everything back.
Okay.
All the everything went inside the box, and Amazon took it. Yep, that's the stuff. They didn't take out the wrapping paper that's useless now. Put it back in and wrapped it and sent it to me. I was like, all right, cool. So, condition of the product itself, perfect. And I mean,
isn't that the one that we used as like the
yeah. Oh,
the headset wrapping?
yes.
Yes, that is. Yes.
I gotta.
That's probably the most fun package to unbox from Apple.
It is fun. So hardware, flawless, no scratches, no skiffs, no scuffs. I meant to say skiffs. A skiff is a secure building on the government side that you need a key card to get access to. It's called a skiff.
And there was none of that in there.
And there was none of them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Now, here's my flaw I'm discovering, but I don't know if it's the headphones themselves or if it is a feature.
A feature.
I want these. I will preface by saying I want these headphones to be something that they're not, and that is for our non-audio listeners and for you fine gentlemen. I am referring to my studio monitor headphones right here that I use.
Yeah.
And what this does flawlessly every time, because it's legacy tech, I guess, is there's a cable, which means there's no latency, which means I have a premium audio quality being fed into my ear at all times. And by I'm not talking about lossless, even though it's capable of doing that. What I'm saying is that it's consistent. There's no stutter. There's no nothing. There's no tech. It's just hardware. And I'm like, perfect. And I'm asking. I feel like I'm asking
Quote that
too
one.
much. Yeah.
There's no tech. It's just hardware.
I feel like I'm asking too much for AirPods Max. Because
You're expecting them to be more Mac accessory than they are.
okay. I pair them to the Mac. I open up Logic. I not even plug anything in. I'm in airplane mode. Like, I'm not doing anything except listening to playback output. Just output the same way a YouTube video. I hit the space bar to play my Logic file, and it would sound like, I don't proclaim to be the best vocalist, but it sounded like I was dragging a bunch of kitties in a and I was
Bye,
like,
everyone. Thanks for listening.
bye. I know. It sounded like I was murdering these cats. And it was high pitchy, just bouncing everywhere. I was like, whoa. And then it just kind of stuttered. It was like, let's say a simple beat. It sounded like this.
Oh, jitter. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. So then I'm like, all right, let me open up Final Cut. I was working on a project. Press play. Same thing. Admittedly, I haven't tried it on YouTube yet. I don't know, but it was more of like, I just wanted to have these on and I can walk around my room in here while listening to a playback, and I couldn't get that. And I thought, here's what I was hoping. Here's what I'm still hoping. I'm not necessarily done. What these old headphones do, these old over ears that I have lossless playback, and this does not. And I do notice a difference, but it's not that I really care because this is optimized for final output sound. And I'm like, okay, I will listen to an MP3 that I export, and let me just hear what that sounds like. Okay, that works as expected. It's fine and simple. It works on my phone. It works on the Mac. It works on the iPad because I will put the file like on iCloud, this desktop iCloud, so it's with me everywhere. So I'm walking around. I'm listening to playback like, cool. It's not lossless like these are, and that's fine. What I wanted these to do for me, though, is I wanted to experience that spatial audio that these over-ear headphones, these legacy cable ones, do not output. I wanted to be able to hear Adobe style output. Now I'm not mixing in Adobe and I'm not able to properly utilize those functions, but I can at least like
Dolby or Adobe?
Dolby.
Oh, Dolby. Got it. Okay.
Dolby.
Just curious.
Dolby Atmos. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I don't have those plugins to make that happen, but I have a way of kind of like mimicking it. And so I was trying to do that. And that's why I was using these AirPods for Logic so I can try to mimic it. And it wasn't a good experience. Now I go to Apple Music and I'm listening to Dolby mixes and I'm like, oh, this is cool. All right. But honestly, I'm not wow because people who have AirPods Pro has this feature as well. So I'm like, okay, it works as I expected. But I like the comfort of the over-ear. I don't feel like I'm wearing it. It's not straining me. The cushion is amazing. Everything about the comfort form factor of the product has still wowed me as I remember doing it when Nick and I were trying them out a couple years ago. And that still stays. It stays true to it. The thing I liked what I did, my customization to the AirPods Pro that made me like AirPods Pros, I put foam tips. And if I want in-ear, which I was doing for EV, I don't feel these in my ear at all. Likewise with these soft cushions, and it's not putting that pressure on my head. I don't really feel it. So comfort-wise, flawless. Product receiving as a used item, flawless. There's something going on with the software, and I don't think it's indicative of me buying a used product. I just think I'm trying to use it the wrong way, and that is my belief. Will I keep it? Who knows? I still got like 75 days, so we'll figure out. I'm not. I'm gonna milk it for a while. I'll probably I'll pay it off on my credit card and then just receive a statement credit and do whatever I want by then.
Return it, buy a new one for 90 days, and then stretch it to 6 months.
I like these. The thing is, like, for what they are, paying under $400, okay, that's something I can make peace with, especially because they're not scuffed, they're not scratched, they're not bent.
It's digestible.
It's perfect. Yeah, I would be like, okay, I can stomach AirPods Max being this price. Somebody saying, hey, I'm thinking about buying them right now, and I've had people talk to me since, and I'm like, please don't buy from Apple $550. Don't do that. Don't do what I did, or find even cheaper. And if these things are holding up a lot better than maybe I'm even suspecting, then maybe they don't scuff. And I'm thinking, if you can buy them even cheaper, assuming they're in good enough condition, you get what you pay. But this is fine. I like them, but they're not my. I thought they were gonna be my daily. They're not my daily. My daily, if I'm leaving the house, are still these AirPods Pro.
So what are these for? Just around the house, but not editing.
I took my trip last week. That's why I wasn't here. I went to Miami, and I brought both AirPods Pro and AirPods Max, thinking like, oh, cool, I'm going to have something for the drive and whatever. And I was forcing myself to use the AirPods Max. I wasn't really like comfortable. The thing that wireless earbuds have over anything else is it being wireless on either or ear, and the I can go on the back seat if I want to lay down. I don't have to worry about like laying a certain way. This has to be my driving audio listeners. My AirPods Pro has to be my driving travel product with me. When I go on a trip now, I've minimized enough of my if I'm gone for a week, AirPods Pro, MagSafe Duo, iPhone, one cable, I'm set. I'm good. That's good enough. I don't want to work when I'm on vacation, so I'm not bringing the iPad anymore. that's it. That's what I bring. I'm good. I'm
well, that's good because the iPad won't help with work anyway.
Right? I mean, yeah, that's true. Most what I need my phone to do for work, like what I was testing, is I'm compiling songs for an album right now, and I'm listening to playback of it, and I could do that on my phone because of iCloud Desktop. Yeah. So I was using these forcefully on the trip. I was not really having fun with them. AirPods Pro, that's the travel companion. When I fly, when I do anything a little bit more that involves outside of a vehicle, I'm not moving a lot, so flight, train, these, yes, definitely over ears would be the go-to. Around the house, yes. When I go walking, because I have like a little trail around here. I took these with me. I wasn't having fun. I didn't want to sweat in them. I was worried about that condensation buildup.
Oh, right.
I was paranoid. So I brought AirPods Pro. AirPods Pro are my active wear. If I'm going to go for a walk, if I'm going to go on a trail, if I'm going to, elliptical or ride a bike, these are still the most convenient, light accessory companion for you. Yeah. If you want to listen to something. I
would be worried about wearing with that much fabric when I mow the lawn because I'm definitely a guy who sweats a lot. So
there's a weird paranoia.
Is it bad for it? Is it gonna make it?
No one said anything bad about it. No one said anything bad. Okay. It's just I don't like that.
Makes
that's
you
a
uncomfortable.
Thing. Yeah, I just don't.
Like
and I haven't experienced that.
$500 headphones.
It's happening right now. The other thing I was gonna bring up is I'm losing transparency. It's out of sync sometimes. And right now, my right one's being transparent. I can hear my voice. The left one is just off.
Maybe these are mine. Mine were broken.
Well, it does sync back up eventually, but I can hear you guys fine.
Okay.
When we had Mike on the call, I can't control the AirPods. This is AirPods as a whole that on FaceTime, I'm hearing everybody in my left or right or center, and that works fine, but it does not hold transparency well. It holds ANC fine, but it doesn't hold transparency well for one or the other sometimes. And I've noticed it only does it on FaceTime. I was using these with Mike for movie review, and I was having that issue. I don't have it any other time, but it's still something I'm making note of.
Interesting.
So it's not perfect in regards to performance or what I want the software to be doing. And that's something I don't think I was having an issue with the first AirPods Max that Nick and I tried out, or AirPods Pro. Doesn't give me that issue. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm keeping them, but I'm going to drag it out a little bit longer. Use case,
that's good. Drag it out.
Around the house. But when I'm outside, which I like to be outside a lot, I don't like to bring them anymore. If I'm driving, AirPods Pro is just lighter, more convenient, less. I didn't know how to pack it. I didn't know how to with this case configuration with the this ugly case configuration. I did not know how to pack my AirPods Max. Case.
More of a
AirPods
wrap.
Pro. Close it. Small pocket where the iPad or iPod Nano used to go. Put it right in there. Call it a day, and we're good. So
They're
when
very
I drive,
compact.
It makes me appreciate AirPods Pro more. But I love how loud these get. I love how clear they get with that loudness, and I love the comfort of over ears. And I prefer over ears because even with the foam tips, my ears still get itchy. They get uncomfortable after a certain point. It's completely gone when I put over ears on. So.
It's a weird sensation. It's like I describe it as letting your ears breathe.
Yep.
Even though that doesn't make sense, but that's what it feels like. It's clogged up. I don't know.
All that
some old
blood or something just rushes to it, and you're like, oh, that can't be healthy for my ear.
I don't know why, but it feels bad to have something in there for that long. You get much of a chance to listen to music these days, Nick, or do you?
I mean, not really. I'm not a huge music junkie, as anyone who knows me would attest to. I actually did also just buy some new AirPods on Amazon, similar to Randy.
Whoa. What'd you get?
The ones that Mike sent, actually, in the group chat. They're the AirPods Pro. But they're and pretty cheap. So whenever SpaceX did the second full stack with the first one with the chopsticks, I think it was before the event in February, I lost my left AirPod Pro in the dunes somewhere one night.
Oh no!
And I'd been putting it off, find a new one, whatever. I was hoping to just turn up because sometimes things just turn up when you're hiking around. You're like, oh, there it is. Didn't turn up, and so I'd been using my backup second gen AirPods, and they work fine. Whatever. I don't use AirPods much more than just to have one in my ear on occasion. And so anyway, I figured the case was already kind of beat up, and the other one was kind of already cummed up too, and my Apple Care just expired on the AirPods Pro, and so I was like, it's $90 to go get a new AirPod if you lose one of the sides, and for a whole new set.
$90?
Wasn't it 90? Was it? I don't know.
Well, I guess I was thinking 70 because that was the old pair, but I've never done it with the Pros.
I've never done it with the Pros. I remember it was less than 100, but still was like, all right.
Okay.
An amount to replace one AirPod, or when I still have, the icky case that's all gummed up. And so I just got a new pair for like 175 or something. So
that's a good deal.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I was like, you can't really go wrong because AirPods Pro are really good. And to be honest, I know there's going to be an AirPods 3rd Gen coming out at some point, AirPods Pro 3rd Gen, and hopefully, or second. Second.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
We haven't even gotten past the first.
I know. And they're this good.
Actually,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I feel bad because I love listening to music, but I don't feel like I get that many opportunities to anymore. Because most of the time when I'm working, I have to be listening to either I'm recording and talking or streaming, or I'm editing, and I have to be paying attention to what I sound like and the audio levels and what I'm saying. Otherwise, I don't know what cutaway shots to use and stuff. So pretty much mowing the lawn is like the only time I get to listen to music. Which is where the noise cancellation pays off. But definitely when we were traveling more on planes, we took like 8 flights in 2 months. It was crazy. These were very, very useful, but the battery life kept ending before the flight did, and that's what made me let me look at AirPods Max again. How much are they? But hearing Randy describe his experience with it and how it hasn't really become his daily is making me less interested, I guess, because I was like, if AirPods Max were meant for someone, it was Randy. That was like the target demographic. And if he's having little issues with them or getting annoyed by them, you tolerate a lot less things when you're paying a lot for something. And even though you can get them now for under $400 if you look in the right place, that's still a lot on headphones, in my opinion. No, that's no cheap pair of headphones. That's still $400 you're dropping on over-ears, and so the compromises you make are that much more painful. You buy a $170 pair of AirPods Pro and something goes wrong, you're like, yeah, it's probably a bad example.
The thing about the Max, though, that I have to give it where it reigns supreme still, and something that we've all addressed at some point or another, I can't kill these things on the battery. They are so big. I love the battery on this one. I was at 50 or maybe 40% battery, and with transparency turned on and me playback, I got through like 4 hours, it felt like, before I was like, I should probably plug these in. I like, even right now, I did what I needed to do, and I charged them when we were recording EV, just so I can have the comfort, because it was like habit. But when I was looking at it, it's like, it's at 100 right now, but then when I went to go plug it in, it was like 80, and I was like, this is fine. Like, it's 80% on these things is not the same as 80% on these things. And
80% on these means you're not going to make it through the
exactly.
show.
And I was getting that was it the equivalent of range anxiety for battery anxiety?
Range anxiety.
I was getting that on these things, not needing it, and I forget how strong. I put these on, like we took a decent amount break between EV and now, and I was wearing these the moment we stopped recording, and I'm still at 100% right now. So,
oh really? Oh, weird.
I'm still holding 100%. Yeah, the battery, and I'm using it not for just audio. Like, I have ANC or transparency on. The battery, and I'm telling you that, Drew, because like, if this was meant for somebody, it was for me. Comment. The reason I was even considering it and why we even revisited this whole conversation a while back was because of the battery life that we were all experiencing with these earbuds. And with over-ears being wireless too, or wireless enough, it's a non-issue. And that, there is a price on that for me, but I don't know what that price is. I don't know if it's $395, $398 or whatever I paid for this, which is why I'm not ready to just make a final assessment. I am returning it now. Like, I'm going to drag it out at least a month, maybe 2 months, just so I can have that peace of mind, that comfort to say, all right, I gave these an honest try if I end up returning them. But if I don't,
that's a long time.
It is a long time. And I'm going to, you need like, putting that type of money into this, because you're right, it's a lot of money. Putting that type of money into this, it was easily my daily for the first 3 to 5 days. Yeah, sure. Like I was like, oh, if we've done I'm glad we waited until now to do a recap on the AirPods Max, because I would have had a different output. Guys, oh my God, this thing, it's like I'm walking around the house the whole time, and it's true, I was at the time, but now I've had time to sit with it.
Walking.
Yeah. I'm forcing myself to bring it with me on my trip, and that was my first indicator that like I forced myself to bring it when I didn't know where to put it because it's inconvenient to pack. 2, after the initial me wearing it while we were driving down to Florida, I just didn't have the desire to reach for it. I was reaching for these because it was right there. If you're gonna go do any activity, or like even if something as mundane as using the restroom, like do you just want to have these on you, throw them in your ears real quick while you're just kind of playing around on your phone, or do you want to go through the whole process of getting these out, put them over your head? If this feels more official, wearing these, me sitting on the porcelain throne wearing these.
That porcelain throne better have armrests if you're going in with AirPods Max.
And it better be as cushiony as this.
It's 24 hours battery.
I just imagine, like, can you picture like a super like cinematic album art with just the headphones and someone's like, you know, really into it, but it just pans out and they're on the toilet. Just like,
it's like way. It takes you to like these things will take this new album will take you to another realm, and you're just like, yeah, I gotta use the bathroom. I gotta go.
Dolby Atmos, the way it's meant to be heard.
The acoustics in this is amazing.
Yeah.
Febreze not included.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that's my thought process is like, but a lot of the time I'm listening to music is when I am in environments where either I'm going to be working and kind of sweating a lot, or on a flight, in which case the extra battery life, or on a podcast, the extra battery life is going to be helpful. So that's why I'm still pretty torn on it. But
flights and podcasts, I have to say this over anything else still. Sweating or just moving about, I'd have to say AirPods Pro. It's weird. It's not a one size fits all scenario because the battery, if the battery life on AirPods Pro gets addressed and fixed, we're having a different conversation at that point.
That's what I'm kind of hoping for.
Yeah. That's a whole different conversation. Until then, I have to say, if someone's like, I'm thinking about getting, like, what's your purpose? What's your intent with what you need to do with them? Is it you just want to have them to have them? Don't get them. Get AirPods 3 or something. Do you need it for longevity for what caliber? Are you stagnant? If you're not going to be moving around a lot, then okay, maybe we could talk about that. Are you going to be out and about? Get something that you don't have to worry about dropping, scuffing, because when these fall, they're not going to break the same way. If this falls in like on a pile of rocks on a hill somewhere, then you're.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, granted, this is going to be hard to fall off because it's wrapped on your head, but even then now it's a comfort level thing too. This is good for being idle. This is good for being mobile, truly mobile.
I see.
Audio listeners, I'm talking about the difference between AirPods Max and AirPods Pro.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys.
They're like, we're just pretending they're not even here.
I try because I'm giving a lot of visual. I know I'm trying to make note that every time I'm addressing something, I'm giving you guys a visual. If people have us on in the background, I'm just letting you guys know my what I'm referring to. But you can infer what I'm talking about.
For sure. I'm really hoping that's the big improvement with AirPods Pro this year, because I really don't have that many other concerns, especially after hearing your opinions on the rubber tips, which if there weren't new ones rumored to come out later, I would probably try those, but I'm paranoid that they're going to change it and it won't work or something. But like the noise cancellation works fine. You know, obviously there's firmware issues that Apple's faced in the past where the AirPods Pro don't get updated properly, but I don't know. They're not going to talk about that on stage, even if they do fix it. This generation, we've fixed the software, so it's not buggy anymore. You know,
right.
We're never going to address that. You just kind of hope one day that, you know, you'll wake up and the latest firmware works pretty well. But that's the most you can do. So battery life would be the main one. I'm the kind of guy. Honestly, I think it would make sense to do an AirPods Pro. I'm the type of guy that would be comfortable if they ditched the Lightning port on here. Use that precious extra space for a bigger battery. Lightning port on a phone, it's not going to free up that much, but on a tiny case like this, that is precious area for milliamp hours to go. And if the solution is just charge it via MagSafe, okay, that's for me then. If someone's like, I like charging it via, okay, don't buy them. Buy the $170 pair.
In a similar vein, right. I would say they should get rid of MagSafe and go all in on Lightning to save that much more space for milliamp hours. Yeah, definitely.
How much space does it save?
I have no idea. I'm just being ornery because Drew's worst nightmare would be for them to remove wireless charging.
Yeah,
Lightning.
That would. Because I'd have
that
more
would.
reasons to keep Lightning around. I don't want them removing MagSafe from anything that has it. But yeah, I'm already annoyed that my AirPods don't do the magnet thing to the MagSafe puck. I thought that was really nice when I had it.
I missed that.
And
that was cool.
AirPods Max are like the complete opposite end. There's no wireless option. But I do have this. I'm holding my mouse, audio listeners. I returned my Mac Studio and Studio Display. Well, I'm trying to. They're still in the living room in their boxes, but all the shipping places were closed when they said they would be open. So the decision's been made. I'm not keeping either, but I've now gone from having a big screen to edit with and now adjusting to a small screen again. But I kept the mouse because I really like and have realized how much faster I can edit with a mouse and how much quicker the timeline moves. So
mouse over trackpad, baby.
Yeah, I still prefer it. The gestures aren't as good, but that's the nice thing about using a MacBook with a Magic Mouse is you've got the trackpad right there if you want to do the multi-touch stuff. And the other really nice thing is it's a pain in the neck to switch the Magic Mouse to different computers.
Yeah.
It's like go into Bluetooth settings and the Mac Studio is like, what? Because it's got no other way. And I don't have a wired mouse as a backup. So I found the solution is you have to plug in the Magic Mouse to the Mac Studio and then unplug it, and then it will remember to stay connected, even though you can't use the mouse when it's plugged in. So it was like this whole headache, whereas if you're trying to connect a Bluetooth mouse to your MacBook, you've still got the trackpad right there, so you can go into settings and say, connect, done. And it's making me miss having that big canvas to work with, but I absolutely now am noticing, like, now that all of my work is being done on the MacBook display again, it's like, ooh, that is smooth. I was, like, appreciating 120 hertz all over again. So I'm trying not to get my hopes too high for a Pro monitor in the summer or later in the year, but at this point, I think I should look towards alternative options because I think there's a decent chance it won't be 120 hertz, and probably my front runner has to be the Eve Spectrum monitor.
No,
no, not allowed to.
Why?
Drew,
Why no?
No. Apple all the way.
There's no 120 hertz on Apple, though.
Just imagine it, Drew.
It's called the 16-inch.
Just imagine it. This is the biggest 120 hertz monitor Apple makes, and I blew so much money on it.
Just fill in the hertz with your mind.
just imagine it.
It's okay. It's okay, Drew. I promise. You've gone your whole life without it. You can go your whole life more without it.
It's estimated shipping is May. You know what's funny with the Eve Spectrum? They charge extra for a glossy coating, and it comes with a matte coating by default.
That makes no sense.
But it has the, I believe it has, well, it says HDR 600, which means something. One USB-C port with 100 watts of charging. So, I mean, I could, it could be done. But
no.
It looks
You're
pretty
compromising.
clean.
You're compromising.
It is a compromise, but I honestly,
The
I'm
studio
compromising
display
with
you used was perfect in all but one for you, as opposed to
So
this Eve is perfect in only one way, and everything else is a compromise.
Maybe more than one way, considering it's still, one size bezel. Still, honestly, I think the Eve Spectrum monitor, not a sponsor, by the way. We're not sponsored by.
However, Eve, if you're listening, I would be more than happy to talk about sponsorships.
I would love to review the monitor so that I don't order it myself and have quality control problems and bash you online for it, because if that happens, I will be quite frustrated. But the bezels on it seem thinner than the studio display bezels. And, now I'm looking at it. I think there's a chin. It's very subtle, but there is something there.
Compromise. It's a compromise. It's a compromise in every way except the refresh rate. However, the studio display is perfect in all but the refresh rate. So you have more reason to go with the Apple dedicated studio monitor than getting a third party.
It's never the wrong decision to buy the Apple product, Drew. Never the wrong decision.
I'm with Nick. You know what? You rock, Nick. I'm with Nick on this.
Thank you.
For once.
For once.
But I mean, it's okay. First of all, this is $1,600 for the non-height adjustable monitor. That's a lot to spend on something you're still compromising with.
6 years from now, you're not going to remember how much you spent on this beautiful monitor.
Just like I remember how much I spent on my iMac Pro all these years later.
Yeah, well,
as it sits around.
That was a bad decision because it had Intel, and the iMac didn't even have an A13 chip in it. So, I mean,
yeah, that's right.
There.
What Mac did at the time?
Actually, I think the iMac had an A10 chip in it as part of like the T2 chip.
Yeah, it had something like that.
Yeah, but it was kind of an Intel, not an A13. So
nothing had the A13 in 2017.
No comparison, Drew. There's just no comparison.
Now, listen, what other monitor can you get where it's going to get software updates, Drew?
Right?
It's going to update to 120 hertz eventually, I suspect.
It's a firmware update.
You don't know.
They're going to truly unlock that A13 chip, but yeah, whenever I live stream, I notice it quite a bit, especially because of how many windows you have to have open for the chat and for stream health and OBS, and often I'm capturing my window too because I'm reacting to something or editing something. The channel members I think are going to miss it the most because Center Stage was so nice when I would film my videos and film the behind the scenes, and I'd be moving around the lights and the tripod, and the camera was just like, oh, he's over here.
Think of your fans, Drew.
No, what do they know? Just kidding. We love our fans. But I thought Apple Silicon didn't need fans.
What we're trying to say is the monitor needs Mac OS.
Yeah, it did.
Bring it back to
running iOS for some reason.
It needs to run Mac OS.
The center stage camera wandered a lot. Like when I'd be doing my live streams and stuff, it would just kind of.
That's because you blend into your walls.
I guess, but it still wouldn't have worked for the podcast because I have to crop in, and I'm the center column. So if the camera kept wandering like that, I would have been like cut off by Center Stage halfway through the show. Maybe people would have loved that more, but like the cameraman's bored with what Drew is saying, so we're gonna pan away. Now
that's gonna be fixed in a software update, guaranteed. If they can fix the camera, the webcam, the iCam.
What does Marquez say? Don't buy something with the promise of future updates.
What does Marquez know?
Although he bought the Mac Studio, he's using that instead.
Yeah, he retired his Mac Pro. Yeah, congrats, man. If you're because obviously he listens to the show. Congrats. That's cool.
So much for upgradability.
And I saw what you said, Drew, when the monitors cost more than the computer. I love that. It's true. It's true.
I'm very much convinced that Mac Pro was a trap. It was a troll. Apple was like, this is our last chance to sell a $50,000 computer, and this is our excuse to make modular and upgradability a thing. And then right after they ship it, it's like, oh, actually, this is all kind of pointless.
You're probably
Apple Silicon's faster.
You're probably not too far off from inside conversations they would have had about that stuff. I think the Mac Pro was the iMac Pro was a stopgap for the Mac Pro. The Mac Pro is the stopgap for the real Mac Pro. Or in this case, the Mac Pro was a stopgap for the Mac Studio. Mac Studio.
Yeah, really. There's a lot of rumors going around or sources, so of course they're all right, as always.
Naturally,
just believe everything they say. But there's
support
a lot of
your
people
local
claiming...
leakers.
Support your local leakers on Patreon. They really need it when Apple
before they unionize or something.
them.
Just support them.
Leak market gets so bad that they form a union and Apple has to supply them leaks every so often. Just because the leak business is struggling. Who's going to protect our jobs? There are 50,000 Twitter accounts relying
with the
on
sad
this.
dog faces in the arms. You're going to see all these leakers with no money because they can't leak. And like, hi, this is Drew. All right,
iPhone 14 leaks have gotten so stale.
This is CoinX. For $1, for one coin, you can send this boy to college or girl. We don't assume.
Do we, Drew?
No, we don't. We do not. We base our assumptions on data.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's claims that Apple wants to make the silicon for the Mac Pro partially upgradable / modular with like RAM sticks and like things that can interweave with the unified memory. So you get unified memory and then you get additional memory sticks on top of that, alongside people suggesting PCIe slots that you could upgrade. Do you guys think there's any value or worth or validity to the idea that Apple wants to keep the Mac Pro as modular as the 2019, or at least more modular than the Mac Studio? Or do you think they're going complete opposite direction, no upgradability at all?
Good question. Go ahead, Nick. That's a good question.
Well, I think that the Mac Studio has shown them what they mean by modularity. We've seen the YouTube videos of people who have torn them down and noticed that the SSD, well, they're not actually technically SSD, the data modules
NAND?
are the NAND data modules are removable, but you can't swap them. Basically, they're hard coded as that storage size. So because they're not an SSD module, they're like a NAND.
They don't have independent
chip.
drivers.
Exactly, and so you can't stick a 4 terabyte module on a 512 gigabyte module. That shows you that technically, yes, it's modular, but you can't really do what you'd expect you could do with modularity. As far as what Apple plans on doing with the M1 Ultra Duo or whatever the new chip that we're going to get is, or new implementation of the current chip, I would imagine it's going to be something similar to that, where they have, maybe some SSD and some RAM slots that you have, 128 gigabytes of high-speed unified memory RAM. But then in the configurator on the Apple Store, you can configure, 64 to, a terabyte of extra RAM that is slightly slower speed, but still, typical PC RAM, but it's somehow locked or software locked to the physical device that it was sold at, because unfortunately, we can't have nice things these days, and Apple has to make sure that for a solid 3 minutes, when the whole internet was like, oh my gosh, the SSDs are modular on the Ultra, or the Studio on the M1 Studio. I'm like, yay, finally Apple has listened to us, and we can get at least just SSD modularity back. That would be great. But no, that's not a thing. So I am curious though how they're going to implement this M1 Ultra Duo chip on the next Mac, because if you've seen the teardowns, basically it's cooled. The current M1 Ultra chip is cooled from both sides. It has cooling plates on the back and a huge cooling plate on the front. And so the idea of being able to sandwich these two chips together makes me just really curious on how they're going to do their thermal management, because it's going to be crazy. The amount of heat and power that they're going to pour into this chip is going to be quite impressive.
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that answer before. Nick's suggestion is
I am 100%
it will be
accurate, by the way.
You are honestly, you have been more accurate than most leakers these days. When you're like, I predict they'll do this, and then it happens, and we're like, oh, well, why did we listen to anybody else? But the concept is that you can have non-unified memory and other storage options, but Apple will software lock it. So you can make a really great teardown video for all those YouTubers out there, but not anything you could actually save money on by buying third-party sticks.
I think it makes sense from Apple's perspective to actually make some kind of less than unified RAM in the Ultra computer, because the new Studio. We're getting so many names going on. The new Mac Pro.
Too many.
The fact that there's a chip shortage, and each one of these chips is very difficult to make. I've seen some people talk about yield rates on the M1 Ultra chip. The M1 Ultra chip is really just two M1 Maxes that worked out perfectly right next to each other on the die, and so it's kind of rare to get one of these Ultra chips just in the manufacturing process, which is why they're more expensive, because they're less frequent and more difficult to make.
That's why they sell the broken ones.
Yeah, no, that's what they sell, the broken. Basically all M1 Max and Pro chips are just broken M1 Ultra chips. Seriously, the M1 Ultra chip is the way it was designed, and then the M1 Max chip is just half of that, and then the M1 Pro chip is a few of the Max chip parts turned off as well. And so it's like, well, great idea, Apple. You made one amazing chip and found a way to sell it 3 different times, and potentially 4 with the upcoming thing. But all that to say, the unified memory is extremely expensive. With the chip shortage and silicon issues that we've been having, they probably don't want to dedicate a terabyte of unified memory onto these chips, because currently it tops out at 128 gigs. Maybe 256 sounds pretty reasonable to have an option. They'll probably, I would guarantee there's going to be a unified 256 gigabyte RAM option. It's expensive as heck, but I also know that there are a few workflows and people out there who would pay more for more RAM. I think of like the Marquezes of the world and people who, money is no object, and B, they want the best computer.
Emphasis on the few.
Exactly. This whole computer is going to be designed towards the few. But I would imagine that between Apple not wanting to spend a lot of time and resources getting that on the unified side, if they could just throw a slot in there that could be somewhat standard across internally, at least being able to swap it out with 256 gigs of RAM, 512 or 750, being able to get almost a terabyte of RAM on the system would be great for selling purposes, great for those who want it.
For a couple people.
And the fact that it's just a slot on the cheaper ones, they don't even need to include anything on the chip there. It's just an empty slot, and the fact that it's locked is actually a great thing for Apple, because then you don't have the OWCs of the world selling upgrade modules that cut into Apple's profits. And let's be honest, inflation aside, like Apple has kept their prices fairly consistent throughout the whole inflation stuff. I think the SE was the only thing that has gone up recently, which means that it is cutting into their profit margins, because it's costing them more to make these. And so I'd imagine you'd see more of these kind of money-grabbing efforts by Apple. Now, it's sad. I'm the first to admit it's sad, because we can't have nice things in the world, unfortunately. But that's likely what's happening.
That's fair. Do you have a different opinion, Randy?
No, Nick makes a very good, compelling case there.
It's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah. No, that was very thought out.
I think my only disagreement is I don't think they're gonna have the sticks additional thing. I think all this is gonna end up being just Mac Studio on steroids. It's just going to be all soldered in, all.
And that's where I disagree.
And okay, so you think there will be some modularity to an upgradability? I'm predicting a return to the trash can.
You need to have no. See, that's what they don't want, because you need to have something that's more differentiating from the Mac Studio. And if it's just going to be a beefed up steroid Mac Studio, then just what Nick is saying about with the prices and stuff like that, it's going to drive more studio cells. The Mac Pro is meant to be, because the thing is, like, we're not even hitting true caps of these chips right now of what
Apple won't let us. I can't.
Yeah. So if the limitation, ideally, what's going to set back is things like RAM, right, or a graphics card, maybe. I don't know. Definitely RAM, but the modularity of the RAM now is getting insane for the efficiency of these M chips, and I think to have a case to stand out against the Mac Studio, it has to be modular. On Apple's terms, it has to be modular.
Modular and upgradable means much more expensive to Apple, which always is funny to me, because usually the selling point people tell me, because I'm not into upgradability or modularity. I'm the kind of guy that wants to buy a computer once and it lasts me years and I just get more than I think I need, and then I'm good and I don't have to think about it. But most people that are into more of the upgradability and modularity is, well, that's more cost effective because then I don't have to buy a whole new machine. I can just replace the component that helps in whatever workflow arises in the future. So I can reuse my old components, and I just haven't seen that to be effective. I mean, I know people in my personal life that do it, but they always end up building a whole new machine anyway. It's like, because they want a different CPU that came out, or they want this new drive speed that's available, or this new graphics card. So I feel like it's mostly just a bunch of extra work and time that ends up spending around the same. Like, if you would have just blew all that on an all-in-one or something, no, it's not upgradable, but you probably aren't saving much. And Apple's mindset is like, okay, you can buy all these all-in-ones like the iMac and the laptop and the Mac Studio, not an all-in-one, but non-upgradable really, and hold on to it for a few years and buy a new one later. I don't think the upgradability argument works with Apple, because look at what's happening. People like Marquez used the Mac Pro for a couple of years and then went, all right, something else is better, replaces the whole thing. He's not like, well, I want the exports to be faster, so let me replace the CPU or let me replace the afterburner. No, it's like, nope, this whole thing's worthless, throw it out. It's like, you blew all this money.
To be fair, Marquez is an exception, not the standard.
Sure, but he's what I'm referring to when we talk about Mac Pro potential, because that's like the demographic of big money, people who spend tens of thousands on computers, not a couple thousand. So I'm like looking at that as Mac Studio. Do you think people who
work in like animation studios, do you think that's how their workflow behaves as well? I'm not setting you up. I know, I realize like I'm setting you up for a gotcha. I wonder how studios who work heavily on like the pro applications that Apple offers, or even the Adobe stuff that ports over and they just use a Mac. I think of the Mac Studio of people outside of YouTube and what they're used for, because there was always a Mac Pro. I said Mac Studio. I apologize. I meant to say Mac Pro. There was always a Mac Pro audience well before YouTube, and it was vibrant, loud, and even though it was small, it was known. And I don't think that team of people ever really went away. Some of them have integrated YouTube into their lives. Some of them,
I think they just the old Mac Pro used to cater towards is now what the Mac Studio is.
Maybe view. Yeah. Okay. So I think the Mac Studio is fine for most people 90% of the time, but
if it's just like a powerful desktop is what
studios like that edit like network television shows or streaming now, and they say that they use Final Cut. I think of those guys who use Mac Pros of the past, and I think on a business end, they would still want that modularity where they're able, instead of what Marquez being like, oh, don't need you anymore. Pfft, do the old, oh, you're broken. I don't want to play with you. Instead of doing that whole thing, people are a little bit more efficient with their products, with the gear that they have, with their tools to get the work done. And my first thought is studios that film or render, motion capture, all that and above. I don't know. I don't want to speculate that they all behave the same way like Marquez would have in this scenario where it's like, oh, well, we just don't need that. I think there's still a use case for people using Intel Macs now, but Apple's going to find a way to sell that. They're going to be able to be like, all right, we don't need, you don't need your Intel Mac Pro, even though you just got it a couple of years ago and it lasts you, normally 8 years or whatever. Like now we got something better and you can have this one now. And then there's that. That's my speculation at least. But the thing is, like, I don't think of an individual person of like Marquez or alike of the YouTube space. I think of like businesses that use them for very, very specific need. The same people that coding, Xcode and stuff like that, like all that stuff. I think they want the modularity. I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, but like you, Drew, I'm a person who I want to buy it once and I'm done. So I can't really appreciate it because I don't know. But I would think that they would want that option. You're paying for the option to do that. Whereas like I was fine with my iMac for so long because one and done. I don't want to think about it. That's not my field.
Do you need to get going, Nick?
Yeah, unfortunately I do, guys. Sorry. We had a scheduling conflict.
We'll wrap it up then.
Today, but I'll see you guys next week for sure. And enjoy the rest of the conversation, guys.
Bye-bye. No, I would like to think that businesses, I don't know, at the same time, I feel like they might have that same mentality of once they find a new standard or once they find something that could improve their export time, they're a big company, they're a big brand. They can afford to buy things in bulk. And I definitely don't think that even big companies that are using Intel machines because they have the software they need or whatever, and they bought a bunch of Mac Pros, I don't think they're going around to each individual computer upgrading the GPU, upgrading the RAM. That's going to be time consuming, and time is money for them, and they don't probably train their editors how to do that. So I think the upgradability demographic is more individuals. It is more like one person using one computer, and it probably works a lot in the PC space because Windows is more open and more widespread. So that means just it's all an accumulation of software. You're using a bunch of different companies' applications on a bunch of different companies' hardware that you're stitching together yourself, and some people like that control because they buy the case from the best case company and the CPU from the best CPU company and the GPU from the best GPU company. So the mindset is you're getting the best of all that fits your use case best. But I just personally don't think Apple's approach to silicon and computer development can cater to that demographic. Like it can do some impressive things. Like I remember watching the videos of people opening up the Mac Pro and tearing it apart and showing how easy it is to access, and it's kind of like overkill, over-engineered. They can do some technical things with their tower designs, but especially with the transition to ARM, and now we can get an M1 Ultra in a box this tiny, but you got to build NAND things that can't be replaced, and the memory is unified and soldered in there, and it's not really upgradable. It's like just the direction Apple's gone with the Mac, I don't think really can cater to that demographic, or if it does, not very well. Like if the Mac Pro's big selling point after the Mac Studio is that, well, this one you can open up and work on, it's probably still going to be like software limited storage or RAM or whatnot, because at least the last Mac Pro was this really high margin Mac. They had all these different configurations and all these different prices because they were like, well, this demographic will pay whatever they need. If you need more performance than an Ultra, you're going to pay whatever we tell you to pay. So the concept that there will be like an empty one that is ripe for upgrades and you can just get all those upgrades from elsewhere, I could be wrong, but I think it's people getting too excited and not realizing like, well, let's ignore what we want for a second and just look at what Apple has done and just base our predictions off of Apple's history. And I don't think they're going to make something that's super upgradable or that ages very well. Just ages in the sense of overhead. Yeah, you get more performance than you need today. But at the end, I still think if you're into the Mac and you're buying into Apple hardware, you kind of have to get used to the concept of you buy something once and you don't open it up, you don't work on it, but it lasts you a few years until something better comes out. And Apple still loves longevity. They still provide software updates for iPads and Macs for years and years after you get them, but upgrading the hardware is just, I don't think their interest.
My experience on the more technician side with upgrading is I'm not cherry picking what you're saying. I'm just thinking of how we managed these things before. We have on the government side we had contracts with Apple and HP, and those were our two main suppliers. Apple, most of it was for phones, and HP for the transition from desktop to laptop. And there were exceptions outside of the main contracts that involved MacBooks, iMacs, Mac Pro, and even iPads. So Apple is heavily like spread out in the enterprise sector. And when it comes to upgradability, say like RAM. Hey, I'm noticing that my computer is getting a little laggy here. I would get feedback like that a lot from, and I would have to go individually and manually swap out RAM. In fact, I'd have to do a big work order to get RAM to install, but it had to be the right one that was compatible for the HP computers and stuff like that. And with Macs, obviously you couldn't do that. With the Mac Pro, we did do that, but the Mac Pro again was the exception, and it was for our media team that we had. They were working. It was public affairs, and so they are very heavy in the Mac ecosystem because it just works better with the media. And swapping out that stuff was convenient. I remember having a similar conversation now with iPhones and iPads, which is what the Mac would lean towards now, of not being modular. That it is what you buy and nothing more. People on the work side of it, if it was just a standard, I need to have this as an issued device, base model, anything was fine because they're not downloading a million things, and if they are, it's because they're using it as their personal device too, which is then at that point it's like that's on you. You got to figure out the storage thing. But when it came to the niches of what we're talking about, iMacs and Mac Pro, those guys did hit these speed bumps enough that they're talking of like, we need to future-proof the device again. And it became an issue of putting in new work orders, because the thing is, all we could do on our side of trying to help mitigate or relieve any bottlenecking that was happening is we'd re-image the whole device from scratch. We'd go into we'd in the boot axis of it, and basically a hard reset on everything, and be like, I hope this helps, and if not, we'll have to put in a new work order, or you guys are going to have to wait until we're not due for another tech refresh for another year and a half. And it was this same old type of a thing, and it was annoying to do those individually. Now, where I'm getting at with that is that if there was a process that companies on the enterprise side, or even not even, let's say small businesses too, which could count as enterprise, say MKBHD Studios, say any of these guys. When it comes to a tech refresh and it's actually time to upgrade the gear, I think I would rather on a technician side and as on a admin side of doing this stuff, and then also being on Apple side, I think it would be easier if it was just all in one. Like here because it's easier to place your orders then by the masses at that point if it's all in one. Because what you're saying, Drew, is like, you're right. You don't get an empty shell of a Mac Pro and all right, spec it out how you want. You could individually, you and I can go on our Apple IDs and build out our thing, but for the masses, that's just not practical. You don't do that, and it would be way easier to then place orders on a mass scale for these first Macs. I would argue say Mac Studio and above. So Mac Studio, Mac Pro, and then whatever god tier we get after that. Say, here's your specs and what you're actually going to buy, because the OS is the same, the apps are the same, everything is the same. What the feedback you get back when you're going to place in your order is, I need at least this much RAM, or I need this type of CPU. I need this type of output. Okay, based off of that, you should get a Mac Studio. Like, instead of upgrading the parts, you're either upgrading or downgrading the actual device itself. And that would just be a cleaner system. And this is me trying to ultimately find a workaround with the idea that I think the days of modularity are gone. It's just the evolution's there. We don't need it anymore.
For Apple, at least. Yeah.
We don't replace batteries. We don't, the same way. Everything gets taken in.
Not really. No. Yeah.
Yeah. You take it in, or you go to a third party shop. You go to Apple. You do whatever you got to do to replace batteries. The business model just changed. Is what it is. I was thinking about what you were saying with how over engineering, opening up the device of the Mac Pro, and it came out like that. And Steve Jobs was so excited to say, and look, you could just access it right here, and he was proud of it. It was good for its time in the early 2000s. That's just not where we're at now. That's not.
Computers had a lot more separate parts and things that were working together.
It's all cloud integrated. Most of these things that you would want or need that was separated, like SSD, for example. I'm thinking of SSD. We don't need terabytes on terabytes on terabytes anymore. You can buy it still, and that's the point I'm trying to make.
I was going to say most pros in that price point, if you're above the Mac Studio, you probably are using a server with Ethernet anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why the argument to me about offering extra SSD upgrade options is that demographic doesn't do local storage. They have a big Ethernet server they're plugging into. If you're spending less than $8,000 on your machine and you want local storage for that, I think 8 terabytes is probably plenty. I'd be kind of surprised if you needed more than that, but
the point you're making about you don't store that locally, for who that's used for, not even enterprise. Let's even talk a personal stuff that people who need that type of storage space is because they want something locally. I know people like that in my life that have a dedicated computer that's a server. That's everything's going there, and it's still local. It doesn't talk to the network, and it's not, because their thing is I don't want it to be backed up on anything except on a local thing that I have in his basement. And I was like, damn, he went really out of his way to make it his own, and he's an Apple guy.
Sure.
He's all Apple, and he's this is how I use my iCloud storage and
Apple's probably seeing it as, if 8 terabytes isn't enough, neither is 12.
Right.
We're not. There's not a bunch of people that are in between 100 and 8 terabytes. It's either you need 8 terabytes or less, or you need a crap ton more than 8 terabytes. So Did you do 8 on your MacBook? What did you? Well, I forgot your storage. Oh, 8. Yeah, I did 8.
See, yeah,
that was too much. I mean, it's more than I needed, but that was the point. That's the reason I was going all out with this thing, especially when I found out it had 120 hertz and that the battery life was so good. I was like, this is a Mac I want to keep for a very, very long time. And my decision was even more solidified when I tested the M1 Ultra, and I did not get any difference in export times. I was like, well, why am I using this? For the first couple days, I was using it, editing all my videos on it, and I was like, well, this is just annoying. I just have to keep moving files over, but it's not faster. It's not performing faster than my MacBook, and my MacBook has all the files I need on it anyway, plus it has the better display. So I was like, why am I fussing around with this thing? What are the advantages? Just more ports on the back? I was actually using more additional ports on the monitor than I was the studio, because the Mac Studio, because the monitor I could plug in all my chargers that I find very useful. Like I have my iPad charger is plugged into my MacBook, and my MagSafe charger for my AirPods, and I partner that with my Cam Link for my camera, and I'm filling up the ports pretty quick, so I could clean all of that up really easily with the monitor. I could also plug it into the Mac Studio, but that thing doesn't look particularly pretty on a desk, in my opinion, either. It's kind of bulky. It's kind of toaster-esque, and I knew from the beginning I was going to keep the MacBook because I need something I can take with me on trips, and I've already used it on trips for work and stuff. So I bought more storage than I thought I needed because I knew I'm probably going to have this thing for years and years and years. So I will fill it up. It's just not going to be for a while, but that's good because with my iMac Pro, pretty much every day I had to find something else to empty. I was like, crap, I delete that, now I gotta delete that, and I kind of like not having to worry about that. Not that I'm constantly using 8 terabytes of storage, but just the fact that I can dump a bunch of footage on this and I don't even think about it. It's because it's so much storage, it's essentially, it feels infinite to me. I feel like I'm not even close to filling it up. So if I would have gone with 2 terabytes, I would be getting close. I think last I checked, I had used around 1.6. So I would have bought this thing, and then within a couple months, I'm like, okay, now I got to sort through all the files and figure out what I need. And I was doing that with the iMac Pro all the time. So I was like, I'm sick of that. And because I got to take it all with me, I don't want a NAS. I don't want a RAID or anything. I want it all local. And it's expensive, and I probably wouldn't recommend most people do it, but most people don't shoot as much as I do or post as much as I do. So I was like, I don't care.
For our viewers and listeners at home, give us a quick recap on your battery. Is it still locked at 80%? Does it plugged in, or is it lightning bolt?
Mine was 80% for like weeks, and then occasionally, I'll do some kind of busy work. I'm not like recording or filming, but I gotta like update descriptions or upload things that I've already recorded. So I just took my laptop in the living room the other day. Used it for a while. Same. Battery goes down. And when I come back and plug it in, it goes, 100. Wow, let's go all the way. So I was like, you're doing so well.
I am like right now, I'm on hold for 80% because I had to retrain it. It kept going to 100, and I unplugged it for a little bit, took my laptop into my little makeshift vocal room over here, did some stuff for about like an hour in there, come out, plug it in, and I got it below 80%, and I was like, it's at 78, please just stop at 80. And the first time I did it, because I unplugged, when I went to Miami last week, I unplugged everything and shut it down, so it thought, oh my God, I need to juice up, so it went to 100. I'm like, I did it again, and went to 100 again. I'm like, and then yesterday it got to 80, and not only that, it was actually like 85, and it was dropping. And it held it at 80. So I was like, all right. So
it just needs a charge limiter. It's not that complicated. It's
Windows offers a limiter. Just like cap it right there, and you.
And I tried al dente for the record. I've had people recommend me get al dente. It's too unreliable. It doesn't work because, usually I would plug in like 60%, and then it would go past 60% and stop. Or the bigger problem was anytime there was a software update, the Mac would reboot, and al dente was not active right away. So I would update my Mac and wake up the next day and it's at 100%. So I can put al dente to 60 or 80 or whatever, but then I'm using the battery to get there. I have to drain it again. So it's the third-party software shouldn't have to do it. It's too complicated, and they can't accommodate for what the OS is doing in the background when there's a software update or something. So whereas before, when I wasn't using al dente, even after I got software updates, the battery would stay at 80. And I would wake up the next day and it still had the power plug. So I'm annoyed right now that it's at 100, but I've come to terms with myself. I don't care. I've just
don't. I promise it's going to correct itself again. It just does. It will.
It will, but even if it doesn't, the battery life on this thing is absurdly good already. It's It's not like
you shouldn't have to change
was...
your lifestyle to accommodate the battery if it meant that you need to undock or unplug to take it into the other room. Do that. It will. I guarantee the software will know how to amend itself. You're fine.
Yep. I have complete faith, and even if the battery health was 80%, it would still be a great battery life.
It's honestly. Not 80% the way it is on a phone or AirPods. It's 80% on one of the biggest batteries you can get.
It's a huge battery, and I checked my or was it the other day? System information. I can check it right now. I have 24 cycles.
How do I check this? Okay, so I go to system. I'm in other. Is that
not system preferences?
Oh,
just hit F4 and type system information.
F4. My F4 opens up the. Hang on, I got.
Mine's
it opens.
The search
okay. Search system information. Yes, you. Nice. Okay, go. And is it in hardware? No, I had to look under.
It's in power.
Power.
It's under hardware.
There we go.
It tells you your cycle count.
Cycle count is battery power.
It's under health information.
Health information. Power, AC, health information. There we go. Cycle count. Whoa. Wait, what's yours at?
24.
9.
You're at 9?
9.
That's nothing. And we're talking about battery health at this point. We're not going to see any kind of deterioration until like probably 500, 600 cycles or something like that. And I've owned this for how long now?
Yeah. Oh no, we're set. We're set. We're
6 months. Yeah, it's stupid.
Getting this MacBook last year was the proudest Apple thing I've done in a long time. I am a happy sheep. Can I, completely unrelated to the Mac thing, can I just compliment on record here? I've appreciated your lack of Starlinking and the fidelity of looking at the playback with you. I'm so glad this home internet thing has been working out with you. Unless there's something you're not telling me, I think this has been an amazing transition for you.
It hasn't been. It's the perfect internet for my use case, I would say, because it appears to prioritize upload more than download. Cool. As far as a general consumer goes, it's not been that great. Just the other day, we were getting lag and buffering while watching a movie. And I was like, okay, the internet's cheap, so I can't complain too much. But come on, this is a basic task. It's not even playing like a 4K movie. It's like 1080p. And it was struggling. And sometimes my wife is like, why isn't the Wi-Fi working? And there was a time that the thing is they encourage you to put the beacon near a window. So when I was doing my unboxing on my big desk here, I didn't want to damage the beacon because I don't own it and whatnot. So I put it on the windowsill. And then later that day or that week or something, the Wi-Fi completely shut off. So everything was down. Like security camera, download, upload, everything was off. And I looked at the beacon and I looked at the screen and it was just like system error. Didn't tell me what was wrong, but it just said it's not working. So I unplugged it and plugged it back in and didn't leave it right in the windowsill, like in the sunlight. So I'm guessing it overheated, likely because it was a pretty hot day and it was right in the sun. But it's like, well, you're telling me to put it by a window, but at the same time, not too close to a window. It
wanted you to have no obstructions, but it can't be in the sun.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Because it overheats. So
no obstructions, but no sunlight.
I wish the screen, put it near the window, but not in the sun. It's like
what?
So, and just the other day I did a download speed test and it was under 50 again. So it's very moody. It depends on the time of the month. I've done recent speed tests like a couple weeks ago where it was over 300 down, and I was like, okay, cool, this is great. And then check it again and it's like barely hitting 50.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just, you can't win everything. But if I have to put up with a little bit of crappy download, it's not that bad. I mean, it's been like one movie buffered one time we had one dropout in 2 months. So it's not unbearable. It's not like I can't live with this. But if someone was doing a lot more gaming, or if you were the type of person that cared about having high download performance, like gigabit or just the highest download you can get, I honestly think Starlink would be better than T-Mobile right now. I got more consistent download performance on Starlink than I have with T-Mobile. But that's all dependent on your area and the traffic that's on the towers. So if you're in a low populated area, you probably won't notice it. If you're in a high populated area, it'll probably be really bad. And I've talked to other people in the comments that have T-Mobile internet, and it's been, some say, yeah, it works great for me, no problems, and others say, oh, it's terrible, it freaks out and crashes all the time. So it's really hard to review and recommend because I don't know where everybody lives. So it's it's completely dependent. And the main thing I was looking for was higher speed and more consistent upload because of how often I live stream now. That's very, very important. And seeing Starlink get better and better throughout the year was encouraging. And then it got really worse in 2022, worse than it was on day one. And there was an Apple event coming up in March. I was like, this is stressing me out. The fact that this internet can hardly handle my live streams, even when I'm putting it at absurdly low bit rates. And I've got a big, live stream coming up that I'm going to stream my reaction to, and I'm going to be watching it. And I didn't want to deal with all that. So I was like, we should figure something out. And if it's possible that T-Mobile is better, I need to at least try. So I'm glad we're on it. It's very affordable, and they threw in Paramount Plus for free, which was nice. And I get the 3% back on the Apple Card. So
is that Paramount Plus for a year or the whole time until they say otherwise?
For a year, yeah, for 12 months, and it has ads. But it feels throttled. Like it takes a while to load on my devices.
That's the Paramount app itself.
Is it slow to load for you too? Or okay, interesting. So other people are noticing. Sometimes it'll take like a full minute for the app to launch on my TV.
Yeah. Me putting it up on the TV, I've just that and Peacock has been very
really okay. Yeah. Well, it's good to know it's not just me.
Hulu, Netflix, I think maybe because they've been around longer, so they got their stuff on lock. It's fine, but Hulu, Netflix, and YouTube on TV, fine. The moment I haven't looked at Amazon,
old company.
Yeah, with a new app, that does. That's
old company, new software. They probably are putting all their servers in some faraway place that we have to connect to all the different cross-continent landlines to get to it.
Right.
Whereas Netflix has servers built out in more places and stuff.
Netflix is always the most consistent, and Hulu's very consistent. YouTube is most of the time consistent. Peacock and Paramount, I just like. But likewise, I'm not paying for them, so I'm like, I'm not going to complain about it.
Disney, you get what you pay for.
Right. Disney Plus though holds their own pretty well still. I jump on, I'm like, okay, you got it. Disney's fine. So these two, at least these two of me,
they've got money.
Yeah. Paramount and Peacock, I'm like, okay, they're free. I'm not going to really complain about it. So that's, I feel weird, crapping on them, but at the same time, it's like genuine feedback. It's not, it buffers a long time, and I'm just like, okay. So
wasn't sure who to blame for that. So that helps me figure this out. Before we go, because we've been recording for a while, we can't end this episode without addressing Quadruple UDC being announced. Yeah. We got through so much tech news without talking about it. But
new record.
Do you think there will be hardware at this event? I have to ask.
Do I? Yes. I say yes.
You do. Okay.
Yes.
So Mac Pro, new display, and new MacBooks, or do you think it's all Mac related, or what?
No, not all Mac. MacBooks will come at the end of the year, October, November.
So this is a Mac Pro event. You think?
This is Mac. This is software. Here is our amazing Mac OS to go with your new Mac Pro.
Oh, okay.
Like
gotcha.
That.
Do you think it'll ship soon, or will it ship when Mac OS ships?
Oh, the Mac Pro?
In the year?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Later in the year. I say later in the year. Yeah.
Okay, so not that month.
No, I think if we are to get like accessories as well, which assuming we don't have a site refresh for like
Mm-hmm.
AirPods Pro, maybe
Mm-hmm.
AirPods Max or whatever they want to show. This is, I suspect, I predict 2022 is nothing but accessory season for the new main hardware that we got with the MacBooks. And
Yeah.
and I mean, iPhones are iPhones. Like it's our best selling thing. Woo, like so it's that part is not wowing me. Mac Pro XDR display refresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope AirPods. If not, we will get them in some type of site refresh. But here's why I think that AirPods, a new with the amount of consistency that we're seeing. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, man, but I feel they've locked in this whole pre-recording, make a nice stream out of it event that's just a pre-recorded event. I think they found a way to really give you quantity and quality of your time. It's not a short 30-minute stream. It's not a bloated hour and a half, 2 hour, stage event of just nonsense. Right. We'll get our obligatory, our services are great, and all that, right? We have to talk about it because it's software season. So we're going to talk about services, and we're going to talk about how nothing's really changing. Just brag more about it. Here's why you shouldn't cancel your free Apple TV Plus, and we'll do all that, right? We're going to get Fitness Plus.
My favorite segment.
I love it. Yeah, we'll get all that stuff, and you can enjoy this and Fitness Plus on your new HomePod Minis with new colors and all this. That fine, cool. Now it's when we get to the real substance of it all: Mac OS, iOS, and iPad OS. Oh my God, iPad OS! I'm not holding my breath, but man, between you and me,
cross all the things.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
And my legs are crossed.
Yes, my toes on my legs are crossed.
Your toes.
So, all that to say that definitely with hardware, if we're getting hardware, Mac Pro, Mac display, a real genuine display for it, and accessories to go with it. And I think from that point forward, so then September, October, November, whenever they do the follow-up one to it, I think we will also get more accessories that's going to complete our whole ecosystem of how we know it today. And then 2023 forward is when we start looking at whatever AR technology they've been playing with, whatever hey, Project Titan turns out to be just a fancy CarPlay that you could put on, whatever it may be, that like new stuff to toy with will come next year. This year is all about poor Nick is not here, so we can't use it, but putting the sprinkles on everything of our legacy ecosystem of what we have today, because we're going to conclude the final transition to the Mac Silicon and no more Intel. And then after that, we just move forward. We got new objectives to keep Apple exciting for everybody, which means next year we'll get new stuff. Nothing new this year, just proper refreshes of everything and finalizing Mac Pro. So all that to say, accessories is what I hope for. I think Mac.
Well, that's perfect. You're playing devil's advocate, and you didn't know it, because I don't think we're getting any hardware.
Awesome.
We'll find out. We'll find out what happens, but I think this is going to be all software. And since the pandemic, they've just leaned in more towards having more events for dedicated subjects. And ever since the pandemic started, Quadruple UDC has been software only. So I'm going to predict that trend will continue, and they're going to save the Mac Pro and the XDR display for later in the year for its own dedicated thing. And also because I think it's too close to the Mac Studio launch. I think Apple wants the Mac Studio to feel like the fastest Mac for a little while. They want to give the M1 Ultra some time for people to be like... Because here's why financially it would make sense. If the Mac Studio comes out and it's faster than every Mac Pro before it, then people go, oh, but the Mac Pro is coming later. It's coming later. And then at this event, they're all waiting for the Mac Pro, never shows up. so everyone goes, well, I need a Mac for school, for work to begin, or, new season coming in. I guess I got to buy the Mac Studio to hold me over in the meantime. So they're hoping to get more people with the stopgap because for the time being, it is the fastest Mac ever. And then all those people will have to buy a Mac Pro later anyway. And it'll be outside the return window for the Mac Studio. So those sales are all the way through. And I think the main reason they didn't announce the new MacBook Pros last year at the iPhone event, I don't think was because they weren't ready. I think it was because they wanted time for the media to cover both. They didn't want too much media overlap. It's iPhone
Everybody
season.
knows what September is, especially because we were late the year prior with iPhones.
Yeah.
They really
Everyone
wanted to
was
give
late.
it its time. So, for sure.
So it was like, this is iPhone time. Let it have its moment. And then the next month, okay, now it's MacBook time. Everyone talk about MacBooks. And I don't think all of the software launches like iOS, macOS, watchOS, and iPadOS, I guess, is a thing. They don't want to compete with stage time with that in the Mac Pro because they probably know when the Mac Pro comes out, that's going to steal the show. That's all anybody's going to want to talk about for months. That's kind of the big finale that Apple's been sitting on for a long time with the Apple Silicon transition. So I think they're going to wait till the very last minute of 2022 at like a October/November event. And that way they rake in as much Mac Studio buyers as they can from previous Mac Pro owners because they know all those people are going to buy the new Mac Pro regardless. So might as well capitalize on the Ultra chip while it lasts. And also, it means that the event will be much more boring. And I'm leaning on the side of disappointment because if
Let
I'm
me
wrong,
push back.
then cool.
I want to push
Mac
back a
Pro's
little
early.
bit.
All right.
First pushback. Why would we care about the timing reference of Mac Studio to Mac Pro when we have the same gap of the best chip ever between MacBook Pro and Mac Studio? I feel like when we're talking about, and for me, for you to say one's a PC and one's a desktop is not enough of a differentiating factor because they are doing it based off of chips of Pro, Max, Ultra, and then whatever they're going to call this one. It does not matter the configuration of how that chip is being utilized. The fact that we didn't see a new iMac was just because it's not meant for that version of it. But that's not to say that
anymore.
But that's not to say we're not going to see that then come later. Maybe iMac will be later on in the year. But I think Mac Pro, it like you said, we're already building up to it. So here's my thing. macOS, DubDub is the whole software thing, and because we are concluding a final chapter of the Intel history of it all, we do get but we have one more thing.
Oh, it's a one more thing moment, yeah.
Because
that would be cool.
I didn't think about the since COVID that DubDub has been only software. And what better way to then just be like, listen, because you know what to expect when it's to these types of events. Everybody knows what June is. Everybody knows what September is. We go, are we getting a site refresh or a keynote for March? Are we doing that for October, November, or are we not? Like that those are always up in the air, but we always have two definitives. And what better way to utilize your definitives? Because I agree with you, September will not be Mac. It will be strictly iPhone, Apple Watch, and maybe iPad, maybe. But
the budget one.
The budget one, right? So you get all that over with, and that's your definitive slot. And DubDub is your definitive software slot, and those are your bread and butters for the longest running ecosystem of these operating systems. Throw in one more thing for macOS to say or maybe it's not a one more thing, but it's like we have to properly, officially announce the conclusion of the transition, and that wouldn't make sense if it goes to the end of the year because we don't know if it's M2 next or how long that's going to be, but we're now going to hit another. If we go to the end of the year, Mac Mini, iMac, MacBook Air, something has to come up at the end of the year, I suspect, because it just feels
I think the Air personally, but
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I think that too. You don't
maybe all of them.
You don't maybe, but you don't want to have that eat up time of the Mac Pro, because no one's going to talk about that stuff. They're just going to talk about the Mac.
That's a good point.
We are all too hyped about the Mac Pro. Dub is the best time to do it because software's not released in June. Beta testing's released in June. But even if the Mac isn't ready by then, we can at least be like pre-orders or whatever the case may be. This is all just Dub is nothing more than a glorified advertisement of here's our roadmap for this year. Let's do it. And you're so jazzed. And sometimes that roadmap includes hardware. They did it with the iMac Pro. They did it with man, you're right,
Mac
though.
Pro,
they did it with the last. Was that Dub? So this feels like a proper slot just to say later this year pre-orders will happen. We have this done. Pre-orders will come in fall, and they'll have that like fall.
Yeah,
window.
coming this fall.
They've
done that before, but I have a feeling they don't like doing it because it means that if you announce the new Mac Pro, you're pretty much guaranteed to stop selling the old Mac Pro.
And what's that called? Say it.
There's some kind of effect.
Norman Harry Osborn.
Norman. Oscorp?
Oscorp?
Yeah. The Oscorp effect. But that's not even it, because the last time the 2019 Mac Pro came out, they literally took the old Mac Pro off the website. So it wasn't even Osborne. It was just like, we're not even going to bother trying. We're not even going to try to sell the trash can anymore. It's gone.
Well, they knew they messed up, though, at that point. They even said we messed up. So I think that was them. That's the one time they openly... Them and AirPower were like the only two times in recent times were like, hey, guys, we messed up. They didn't even openly say that they messed up with the butterfly keyboard. They were just like, oh, we're introducing...
No, they just kind of...
Yeah. But those two things, there was too much attention on it.
Yeah.
So... this is a proper way to be like, here's what we got, and if you want to continue buying it, maybe they take it off. Maybe I would say there is no need to have an Intel computer for sale on Apple.com today. As of having an M1 Ultra chip there, there's no need, and Marquez has proven that.
Yeah. No, I think at best they're keeping the 2019 Mac Pro on the site to clear inventory. I wouldn't be shocked if
to meet contract obligations with Intel or something.
Yeah, they signed some contract, or didn't they build them in that factory in the U.S.? So they have to keep that factory operational for a certain amount of time, and then it's done. Now that place is useless. Yeah. So it's I could see it going either way, because you bring up good points about they probably wouldn't want to do MacBook Air, Mac Mini, iMac, which is colorful now. And Mac Pro all at one event. They kept the first line of M1 chips in their own dedicated event, and then they did an event just for the MacBook Pros. And
the differentiating factor was the chip. I don't want to draw attention to what the product was. I want to draw attention to the chip. But
with the case of the Mac Pro, it's both the hardware and the chip are.
It just so happened, right? So, because he all but says like, we got one more, but that's a story for another day. And for you to not talk about it for the next day of you coming back on stage, I don't think it's good optics. Personally, I
don't think it is either, but that doesn't convince me they won't do it. I'm still partly sold that it would make sense to announce it there, and I fully agree it makes the event more exciting. But I've just for the past 2 years expected hardware at that event, and we didn't get it. So I'm shell shocked from the previous years of disappointment. So I'm trying to keep.
I don't know, Drew. The leakers aren't saying anything about MacBooks this year, so.
Oh, but they are. But
they are.
But my brain is in like self-defense mode of like, no. This has been a developer conference and it's been software only for 2 years in a row. The invite itself was of the Swift icon. It wasn't even Apple icon.
No, so it was the Talos of T and the Randy Vasquez V. What are you talking about?
Right. That's what it was.
That's what that was.
So I feel like they're leaning into the fact that this is a software event, and I'm fairly confident that will be the focus. But you're right. If they did a Mac Pro, it would probably be awesome as a one more thing. and probably believable that it would not be ready to ship right away.
It's perfect to do it here because it's not going to interfere with software announcements. It has nothing to do with the software. So it doesn't take away from the software highlight. And the Mac Pro will be like, look, okay, we're done. Let's talk. Hey, look, it looks exactly the same. Or what, or
if you remember the last Mac Pro, they didn't even launch the configurator until the winter. Right. They unveiled it in the summer. So maybe they'll do something similar this year where it's like, this is what it looks like, and here's the starting price, but we're not going to say what the maxed out price is. We're not, and they're probably going to talk about how many GPU cores and high performance cores the X1 chip has, but they're not going to talk about the binned options.
Due to inflation, you can buy a maxed out version, and you could still get a Model 3 if you wanted to over. Because those are big things. Like you can max it out and you could get a Model 3. Well, that's still true today with our maxed
still
out.
Still cheaper to buy a Tesla. Yeah. Right. I'm interested, even though I'm not in the market at all. Like I 100% am not buying it, but I am just curious because at the last event they said the Ultra was the last of the M1 family, and yet this thing's coming out and Apple's confirmed it themselves.
100% track record.
100% track record. So I don't know what they're going to brand it, but ever since someone told me that maybe they don't use M series, like they use a different letter for the Mac Pro line, ever since that came into my head, I was like, that makes sense. Because if you started with, like, some people were saying it'll be built on the M2 architecture, so that's why they're not calling it M1. But I'm like, if you start with M2 Ultra, then every M2 after is going to feel less exciting, less lackluster. So I don't think it makes sense for them to start with M2 Ultra. So my prediction is they're going to have some other letter, P for performance or for Pro. That's what I said before they announced M1.
Power PC, Power Mac. Whatever the chip they used before they went to Intel.
Power PC. PP1. That's the new chip.
I got to go PP. I got to go PP1.
Number 1. But it'll be that line of chip that does not get updated annually, or probably not even every 18 months. It's the kind of chip that gets updated like every 2 or 3 years. So they're okay giving it some kind of special branding because it doesn't get updated that frequently. So maybe the next Mac Pro, which I don't think is coming next year or the year after, but the next one will be built on the M3 chip architecture or the M4 chip architecture. So calling it M1 God or M1 Ultra Duo, whatever, won't really work as well with the lineup. So for the sake that they're going to kind of push the Mac Pro up to a different realm of Mac and say, no, this is the type of thing that gets updated every 3 or 4 years, not every
That's a good point.
Every year. They give it a new brand.
Yeah.
P kind of makes sense, but maybe it doesn't sound as good marketing wise. I'm sure they have someone in charge of marketing that's like, nah, it's too weird, doesn't work. So X sounds kind of cool for extreme.
XR sounded way better for meant nothing. Yeah. You're right.
10R, right? 10-1. When we get to M10,
they should call it X. OS 10. Bring the old
B emoji.
The B emoji. B.
Bingus.
Apple
Bingus.
I don't know if an X chip. Okay. Before I hang up on the naming schematics here, I agree with that. It should not be in the M series because you're comparing it to everything else, and we already innately expect Mac Pro to be the best of the best of the best of the best for years. There's so much headspace, you're fine. So having it be M1 IRL or whatever, it does not matter. The naming of that point, it's the utility of the chip that's going to be interesting because it's what is it being built on, what architecture of it, and Maybe, I think we're overthinking it. To be honest, what if it's just M1 Ultra, but there's like 2 of them or something? Like, a part of me is like,
I've talked about that too. I was like M1 Ultra Duo, but everyone says no because they claimed it was the M1 Ultra was the last M1 chip, is what they said on the last event. So
what? How do we not know it's not being bent now for the studio? What if there's
well, it's a different die, I think. Well, all the leaks and rumors, which have been fairly accurate when it comes to the Apple Silicon leaks, they've said, the M1 Pro will have this many high performance, this many GPU cores. They're saying this M1 Ultra was the rumored Jade 2C, which is 2 M1 Maxes stitched, and then you can also get 2 binned M1 Maxes stitched, and that's how you get a more affordable M1 Ultra. But the rumored one for the Mac Pro is 4 M1 Maxes stitched, so it's a Jade 4C die.
Okay.
So it's a different size die and everything.
Yes.
So I don't think it's already in the studio, but
okay, you're
how
right.
they brand it is up for debate.
Okay, no, all right. Then I did not know that. With the leaks and stuff like that, I've been a bit more hands off this year. So
that's good.
Yeah, that's wrong. That's my way of taming expectations. The way you're going to be let down at Dub Dub, this is me going to be not let down for the rest of the year. So let's see how that works. But now that you say that,
the leaks have not paid off.
Right? Poor Nick, still not upgrading his watch. That fool. Anyway, he's not going to watch this part. So here, now that you say that, it is not going to be an M chip because you're right. That's the last naming of it. They will call it something else. It will be something fancy and almost by marketing. I could see X. I could see P. I could see it might even be a letter. It might just have a name that like Mac Pro chip. It could be just something.
The Apple Pro chip.
The Apple Pro.
It might
chip.
be that simple. Yeah.
It
just says the Apple logo followed by Pro.
That's it. Or Apple One. It's Apple One with your services, or the Apple One.
Oh no! You can't.
I hit the button. Oh
no!
I hit the button. So that was
I
my
guess
bad.
they won't see that. Randy just hung up on my end on the FaceTime call, but they.
I was adjusting my headphone. Now I'm paranoid about it. So okay, that's a negative for AirPods
Strike
Max
3.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I just think that maybe we will get something simplistic, and the Apple logo, and you just know what it is. This is the chip it's running, and then there's that.
I think you're right, because we kind of overcomplicated it last time, right? We all thought
We did.
M1X and then M1C, and then Apple just came forward with M1 Pro, M1 Max, which is not what anyone was predicting, and yet they went all simple with it. And then they were like, oh, this will be M1 Max Duo because it's 2 stitched together. And then they go Ultra.
Yeah.
I just imagine there's like some guy in marketing that comes up with these decisions after like 5 seconds. They're like, what do we call this? Well, we already used Max. So
What's
I
the
guess
meme
Ultra?
of the guy at the table like this? And he's just like, why don't we just call it Apple Pro 1?
Yeah. Call it the Mac Pro chip.
Mac Pro chip.
The Apple CPU.
The Apple logo, Apple CPU. There you go.
It's just it's the central processing unit. It's like try to be dumber with it. Don't be all smart about it.
Don't
guys.
overthink it. These are
try
Apple
to think of
sheep.
something basic. Yeah,
we can hurt them
probably what
easier
it'll be.
the more we name it. You're right. I think we're just a little overthinking it here. It's going to be something simplistic, and it's not going to have an M in it because it needs to stand out from its family.
Because pretty much all the other Macs I expect to get updated at least every other year.
Yes.
Somewhere between 12 and 18 months, all Macs are going to get updates with M2 chips or new designs or mini LED or OLED. But Mac Pro, I wasn't following Apple very closely back when the original cheese grater was around, but I don't think they've ever updated the Mac Pro that frequently. It's always been like a once in a decade or twice a decade type of update. We just had, in my lifetime, cheese grater to trash can, back to cheese grater, and that's
my
all
lifetime.
In 20 years.
It was this beige box to that one that Steve Jobs was like 1, 2, cheese grater, can, cheese grater, 5. So I've seen 5 in my lifetime.
Yeah,
I'm 32.
Yeah.
So
It's not going to be every other year we update the Mac Pro type thing. And I also, for the record, I don't think whatever chip they give the Mac Pro, I don't think that'll go into Mac Studio next year. I don't think that silicon is going to work in any other form factor. It's going to be, like Nick was talking about earlier, it needs a very special cooling system. And it's not going to be one of those chips that they shrink down later. It's like, no, this only works with this design, and we're not going to pump that into a Mac Studio or an iMac or a Mac Mini. It's like, no, those are all going to get M1, M2, M3, and their Pro Max variants. So that's why it makes sense to not brand it M, in my opinion, but likely overthinking, as you said.
yeah, that's most time. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Because I do think the event would be far more fun if we got the hardware there, even if it wasn't ready to ship yet. I'm just trying to not get myself too. But I'm actually more in the market for the monitor.
Same. Well, we talked about this, and my stance still stands right now that I will wait until Dub, or let me re-explain. I will wait until the Mac Pro comes out with a companion monitor to assess out of the two what's going to be worth or not. Will it have promotion or not? I'm still.
That's a big deal for me.
And me, it's
promotion and price.
Yeah, price is the big deal for me. I'm using right now as we speak an ultra wide 60 hertz, and I accept it for what it is. I notice it. That's not the deal breaker for me. I can live with it,
sure.
and it's fine based off of the right price. So if the price is still affordable, no, excuse me, even if it's not, excuse me, even if it's not, then that will push me to get the studio monitor then. Then I'll be like, all right, I have my answer. If this thing is an ungodly $6,000 again, nope. All right, I'm getting the height adjustable swivel, maybe glossy, maybe matte. I don't know at that point, but I will just get the studio monitor at that point, and I'll be happy with the purchase. That will last me a very long time, and I'll be very okay with it.
It's such a gorgeous monitor. It looks fantastic. And I appreciate all of the bells and whistles that come with it, between the ports and the speaker system is really good. The center stage camera, the single port that can do everything. Like, it's the perfect MacBook accessory, honestly.
How do you wait?
It's just a shame that the panel sucks so much.
Objectively, you're not wrong, but I just agree to disagree of it being the deal breaker. How do you wake? I'm assuming you've tried it with your MacBook. You docked it, and is it just clicking any key or clicking your mouse and then it wakes up the display?
Yeah, just like a MacBook. Yeah.
Okay.
And it actually, the Mac won't go to sleep if you have a monitor plugged in and you close it. So there were several times with the studio display, I was using it and I was like, okay, I'm done. Close the laptop, and then macOS reformats and just stays active on the display. So I was like, oh, right. And I have to grab the mouse and put it to sleep manually. So that was just a little bit of an extra step, but people like that if they want to use their MacBook docked and, fold it up. The reason I don't want to use my MacBook, I don't want to do that because I like the display on my MacBook much more, aside from the size. That's the one issue, is it's just too small. I was using my MacBook display and studio display together, and I'd probably keep doing that with my next monitor, whatever it ends up being. But I feel like no matter what I do, I have to compromise. So
my compromise
regardless,
is I close the lid, put my iPad on it right here. I look at you. You are not 60 frames, so you're about as 30 frames as this is 60 hertz, and I'm like, that's my life, and I just accept. It makes me appreciate when I open my MacBook, though. I like closing the lid because when I open it, I get like a little treat once a week where I'm just like, ooh, you're cool. Because it's the best to me.
Cheat day.
I have my cheat day. It's it's the best curved corners, notch induced color.
Oh, I love it.
Pixel. It's the best display. I love the display so much. It's my
they
cheat
nailed
day.
it. Aside from the fact that, well, you can't change the fact because it's a laptop, so it has to be small.
Yeah.
So there's no way around that. But like, man, I do genuinely notice it for people who keep asking. Yes, it's very noticeable. Whenever I jump back to the studio display, I was like, so close. So I'm just looking at Eve's website because I'm like, where do I want to compromise? Do I want like, because the Eve Spectrum I think has a tiny chin, but it's very tiny.
Yeah.
And it's a fraction of the price. It's $800.
Ooh.
Versus, so it's half the price of the studio display, and the side bezels are thinner.
Is it selling right now, or is it still pre-orders and all that with the Kickstarter or the GoFundMe?
It says estimated shipping May, so I believe it has started delivering to people. But, yeah, it has 143 reviews. 4.4
Order it.
Stars.
Review it. At least get your hands on it.
It might be worth it. I don't know. I've got
you're hesitating because you're afraid you're going to keep it.
Yeah. Well, as you're aware, I have some big expenses coming up. So
yeah.
those probably are taking priority. And of course, I would get really upset if I bought the Eve and then it turned out that Apple was releasing a Pro XDR with 120 hertz
That's a chin.
month. And
I'm looking at it. That's 100% a chin.
So
it has a chin. There's your compromise. Yep.
There's a little chin, but it's got 144 hertz and it's HDR. I think it's brighter too. It's 750 nits. I don't think you can do the one port for everything, which is also a bit of a compromise, but yeah, it has HDMI, but it's 2.1, which I know my MacBooks is 2.0. But I wonder if I do know that HDMI 2.0 can handle. Is it 2.0? No, it's not. It's Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt 4 can handle 4K at 120. So I don't think they have a Thunderbolt port on there, but yeah, it's a compromise. But I would at least compromise with $800 to spare.
What does that mean then? Wait. Does that mean you're not going to get the full 4K for 120 then if this is not Thunderbolt?
No, you would. You would just have to buy a adapter, I believe. I think I have one, actually. I think not an adapter, just a cable that's Thunderbolt to DisplayPort or HDMI on the other end. So it would not be like the clean studio display approach of one cable's plugged in and that provides data, power, and additional ports. It would be a little bit of a compromise there, but so that seems to be like my go-to backup if Apple disappoints me, which at this point I think it's fairly likely. It's either going to be 60 hertz or it's going to be $5,000, and I'm not willing to spend. I would like an external monitor, but I don't want one that bad. I can live with a smaller display. I would rather keep $5,000. So
yeah.
It's nice to have, but I wouldn't put it as a must-buy type purchase. I would say there's like an 80-90% chance of the monitor being not my dream scenario, which is sub $3,000 and 120 hertz. Most likely, but Ross Young is saying it may be possible, so I gotta at least wait to get confirmation. Once it's out, I'll be like, okay, I know.
Yeah, none of this stuff is going to get dated anytime this year, so you can afford to wait.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm speaking for myself, too.
Especially because I'm taking several month-long trips, so whatever monitor I buy, it's going to sit at my desk and do nothing for months.
Oh, yeah,
so
you got time. You got time. You're fine.
That's why I'm not in a huge rush to buy this thing, because it's not going to be used for a lot of the year anyway.
Yeah. It's a good-looking monitor, this one, the Eve, still.
It is pretty.
I like, because it's the way it narrows down. It has a clean design.
Yeah.
It's everything I don't like these other gaming monitors. It's everything. It's just minimal.
Exactly.
To a fault.
Yeah, I like it. I like it when I find high refresh rate and minimal design. That's important.
And there's USB A, B, and C. So you really have.
That's true.
You have DisplayPort, HDMI. My goodness, but no Thunderbolt. Oh man, Thunderbolt would have been that. I think that would have been the deal breaker right there. It would be like, all right, gotta at least order and try it because Thunderbolt would fix.
Yeah, I thought I remember at some point them saying that there was gonna be a way for you to do what MacBook Pro people do. One cable does everything. So I'm looking for it, but I don't see any reference to. Okay, hold on. It says one USB Type C, but by that DisplayPort 1.4 input. I'm not clear on that. What is DisplayPort 1.4 support?
Oh, display. Oh, the display. So the DisplayPort is. I thought that was an old legacy port that we moved away from. I've used DisplayPorts before in the past. But I don't know I didn't know they were still servicing that port, to be honest.
They're not branding it Thunderbolt, so I know it has to be somewhat worse. But
you're right.
Hold on. I gotta figure this out live.
All right. I need to get your reaction.
Max Res and frame rate of DisplayPort 1.4. I must know. Someone out there knows it, and they're like, true. Okay. DisplayPort 1.4 supports 8K at 60, so that should do. That should do 4K, right?
Yeah. Wait, at 60?
5K at 60, 8K at 60. Wait.
No.
Hold on.
That means no.
Frame rate. Okay, not frame rate limits of DisplayPort. Come on, Google. Do your job.
Google Assistant, am I right?
Everyone keeps saying it's limited to 60 hertz. Wait, this says DisplayPort 1.4 can handle 4K resolution at 98 hertz.
You're not going to notice it.
DisplayPort 1.4 can provide 240 hertz at 1440p and up to 120 hertz output at 4K. Okay, who said this? I must... this is so confusing.
120 hertz.
Electronics Hub claims that 1.4 can do 4K at 120. That's good enough for me. I don't need 144. Interesting. I'm going to let the audience correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but apart from that, this website is claiming DisplayPort 1.2 can do 4K at 120, and this is newer than that. So I assume it can. Hopefully it can do... Yeah, it says through that one port it can do 100 watts of power. Okay. I'm liking this more I'm reading. The more I'm reading, the better it's sounding. It's okay if it's not 144 hertz, but yeah. Because if I could get power and data through one cable... Man, it's got a chin. I don't like it. I still hate that chin.
See, Apple fix one thing, and you have a customer for life.
$800 to get rid of that chin. Sheesh. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today.
That was a fun reaction. This is a weird episode. This is a fun episode.
This is weird.
This was fun, though.
Good to be back. And we'll see you all next week. Take care.
See you next week. Bye.